Welcome to How You Pictured It, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs ready to grow their business in a way that feels good. Here you'll find actionable tips and tools to create the business and life you pictured. I'm your host, Kate Hyde with Dear Kate Brand Strategy. Let's get started. On today's episode, I want to talk to you about 3 different pricing models that are out there in the photography world as the most common. These are ways that you can structure your pricing and set up your business. I want to say, though, that there's really not one right way. These are all options, and you have to pick what's best for you. Let's start out with shoot and burn or all-inclusive. This is usually where people start when they start a photography business. There's one flat rate price that covers everything for a session and includes everything that you're going to give the client. Typically, you'll say it's an hour session and you get X number of images. Some people put a range on it, say 20 to 30 images, or some will say an exact number like 25. If you're going to go with this flat rate pricing, I highly suggest putting a strict number on it, and then you can always over deliver. But if, for instance, you say 20 to 30 images and you give someone 20 images, they're not going to be satisfied. They're going to feel a little bit disappointed that they were on the lower end of your estimate. And we never want anyone to feel like that. We want them to feel like we've met their expectations and exceeded them. This flat rate, all-inclusive pricing has also been called shoot and burn. Back when we really started to move towards digital images versus film cameras, we saw this shift to giving all of the photos to the client versus when there were more film photographers, you were showing proofs or showing prints and letting clients order from those prints, and they were ordering prints. The term shoot and burn really came about when that shift was made to the digital and photographers were able to enter the market with really no barrier to entry. You just had to have a camera and they were just basically shooting and then burning the images to a disk. So that's where that term comes from. Over the years, there was pushback from those more traditional film photographers feeling really upset that some photographers were giving away all of the digital images. It was really changing the industry and how things were sold and how things were done. I started as a photographer right really at the beginning of that digital era professionally. I shot film in high school and in college, but when I really got into photography as a business was when that digital era started, and I was one of those shoot and burn photographers at the beginning. I do feel like that term has a really negative connotation, and a lot of that was from the film photographers feeling encroached upon by all of these new photographers flooding the market when digital cameras became the mainstream. Now, that's not really the case anymore. There's still a lot of photographers that are all-inclusive, and I feel like that term shoot and burn has really kind of fallen to the wayside, and we call it all-inclusive or flat rate now. This pricing model is good for someone who loves to shoot a lot of detail. They love to include a ton of images. They don't care necessarily about their client having prints or products with their images that are professional. They really just want to provide a ton of digital images for their clients, and they don't want any kind of back and forth with the ordering. They want a quick sale and a quick process from booking through final delivery. And when they deliver those final images, that's really it for them. The biggest downfall for this pricing model is that you often end up over delivering, as we talked about, and you are spending time editing images that the client doesn't necessarily want and that they haven't paid for. You're putting a cap on your income this way too. When you're saying this is the price for the session, you're going to make that same amount for every session, no matter what. And sometimes you're going to be doing more work and sometimes less, but it is really dictating how much you're going to make in your business. You can't really get more hours in a day. And when you tie your pricing to those hours, you end up putting a ceiling on your earning potential. The next model we'll talk about is in-person sales. In-person sales is where you'll do like a session fee or an upfront fee to book the session and for your time. And then you'll sell your prints, your products, your digital images in person after the session. Now, with COVID, a lot of those in-person ordering appointments got moved to online ordering appointments, but basically there is an ordering appointment where you show the client their images and they place an order with you at that time. In-person sales is great for those that really want to have their clients get those professional prints and products. That's what they value the most, and that's what their clients value the most. Some other benefits to in-person sales is being able to see your clients as they view their images for the first time. There's really nothing quite like that. Seeing people view your work and falling in love with themselves in those images. In-person sales also has the option to be very profitable because you are showing prints and products in person and having the client place their order all at one time. The emotions are high, and psychologically that will help them spend more and buy more when they have that kind of big experience of viewing their images and placing their order. It's a really high touch customer experience, and it's a high touch for the photographer as well. In-person sales does require a second appointment with the client, so you are seeing them more than once, either in person or online, and then you're placing their orders and delivering their products, and that might be an in-person meeting as well. A lot of in-person sales photographers do also do a pre-consultation before their session, so that's, again, more FaceTime with your client. This is really a lower volume, higher priced kind of model. So you're working with fewer people, but making more per client typically. And then the last pricing model we're going to talk about today is kind of a hybrid. It's going to be more of an online process with a session fee and then collections or packages of images on the back end. You can either have the client choose that package up front or after the session. But basically, you're creating collections or packages of images and products and prints based on kind of buying psychology and how people buy. The difference here between this kind of method and that in-person sales method, you may even use the same kind of price list, but this one is all online and the client does it at their own time. There's no ordering appointment. There's no additional meetings that you have with your client. They'll place their order completely on their own from your website or your gallery software or however you want to do it. This can be very profitable too and allows you a little bit more volume than the in-person sales method. If you want to see more clients, then this really allows that to happen. So basically, if you think of it as an in-person sales, you're going to see client A for their consultation, you're going to see client A for their session, and then you're going to see client A for their ordering appointment. In that same time, you could see client A for a session, client B for a session, and client C for a session without any of the additional meetings or appointments. Again, it's really about finding what works for you and what fits your priorities. If you are really big on selling prints and products and want that high touch with your customer, you want to spend a long time with them, you want to really build that relationship, then in-person sales is probably the right thing for you. If you are looking to just do high volume, lots of clients, you want things turned around quickly, you don't want any back and forth with ordering, then that all-inclusive method is probably right for you. Or if you want to do kind of medium volume, still high profit, then maybe the online sales hybrid method is right for you. We all go through different seasons of life and different phases, and sometimes we have more time or less time to be spending with each client, and we have to find what works for us in that season. You'll find a link in the show notes for my quiz that helps you figure out your perfect fit pricing model. And you may have to take it a couple of times throughout the years as things change. I hope this episode of How You Pictured It was helpful in helping you figure out what your priorities are and which pricing model might be the best for you. I'd love to see your results when you take the quiz. Post a screenshot to your social media and tag me at Dear Kate Brand Strategy. If you're enjoying the How You Pictured It podcast, I'd love for you to leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Let me know what you think so I can make more content that helps you build your business to fit your life. I'll talk to you next week.